was of her and my mom pinning me. So the photo that you took today will come back, and you'll cherish that down the road, I guarantee you. And if you did something ignorant, didn't smile, you'll remember it. Something happened, you'll remember that, and I still remember it. Well, who pinned me that day was my mom on the right shoulder and my girlfriend on the left shoulder. Did I have any girlfriends pinned today? I don't know if I noticed any at all. I probably not. But that was who pinned me that day. Well, that girlfriend was actually 30 years about a month ago. 30 years of marriage. That's where that went. So in those 31 years that I've served in our nation's military, I've seen a lot of different things change. I got married. I had 2 kids. Those 2 kids are grown. One's living in D.C. One just got back from a year overseas in Guatemala. I saw an Army transform from, essentially when I came into the Army, we were using slide rules to calculate data for our artillery pieces. And I walked into my first unit as a newly commissioned second lieutenant, but fresh back from OBC, and I had a computer system, and they didn't exist back then. And I wore it around my neck. It was about this big. It was called the Bucks computer, for those of you that might remember. And I walked in, and that represented to the core of NCOs that were there change. This was the same time that we brought in the Black Hawk and the Abrams tank and the Bradley and the Paladin. All these, or the 109 Alpha 3 howitzer system. All of these came into being during that time. So there was the Black Hawk. All this dramatic change occurred early on. And there's been constant change. There was, some of the wars that we went through back in the 80s, and Desert Storm, and kind of the buildup, and Kosovo, all the stuff that went on in the 1990s, and then of course 9/11, and it's just been a constant set of changes with every new set of leaders. Things get refined, things get updated, new equipment. We've got lasers entering. We got unmanned aircrafts that are flying around. All sorts of different things and changes that are occurring in our Army today. But one thing has not changed. One thing has not changed in our Army going back the last 31 years. And it's the same things today. It's the same things that haven't changed today that weren't changed back then, that are the same things that we as a military cherished at our very inception more than 200 years ago. From the very beginnings of our National Guard, more than 300 years ago. And those are the traits of our leaders. Those things have stayed constant. And I tell you, as I sit back and I keep coming back to what really matters in our service, and I tell you as lieutenants that you will see the same thing. You will come back to those things that are constant, those things that do not change. And those are our morals and our values and our traits, and those things that we believe in internally. Those things don't change. They can't change. Our country depends on this constant professionalism and these traits and these values that we as an Army deeply cherish. And what are those? There's 3 of them and what's interesting is that they have been the same, but the names have changed a little bit over the years. They've changed a little bit. Back probably 20, 25 years ago, there was a guy by the name of Stephen Covey. You've probably read some of his books. And Speed of Trust, and 7 Habits, all of these things. Well, there were a couple of things that I'd already realized as an officer back then that were important. The way I've always found out, and I was kind of a slow learner, the way I always found out they were important is I messed something up, then I would always do my own self-assessment, AAR, self-reflection. And I would say, okay, I did this wrong. I didn't do this right. That's why that didn't turn out. Then I would try to categorize these things into broad categories. And then it hit me when I read the Stephen Covey book. It's 20 some odd years ago. And it was 2 things: trustworthiness and the second one is competence. Those two things Stephen Covey brought up 25 years ago that really put a label on what I already knew and learned through the School of Hard Knocks as a young lieutenant, and also was a PFC and E4 at one time. So I learned those things the hard way. So trustworthiness, competence, and then there was one other that I added on down the road, which really are contained in the first two, and that is care. And what I mean care for others around you, and even caring for yourself. You go back and we look at our Army values, it really captures a lot of what we see in this term called trustworthiness. It's the moral foundation of who we are is contained in this. In the Army, we have a thing, and a lot of the civilian folks may not realize a term called something called Army values, and it's wrapped up in an acronym called leadership. The L is loyalty. The D is duty. The R is respect. The S is selfless service. The H is honor. The I, integrity. And the P is personal courage. So when the Army came out with these several years ago, to me that defines trust. That is the epitome of trust. That is, you live those values, you gain trust. Trust with yourself, trust with others around you, trust with families, trust with the civilian population you have sworn to protect. Trustworthiness means that you understand these Army values and that you live these values every second of every day. In good times, you live the values, they're easy, but in bad times, you live those values as well. One of the individuals that I recently met with, had dinner with him, had the luck of having dinner with him, is General Abrams, Abe Abrams, and I served with him in Iraq in 04 and 05 in Baghdad. He was a brigade commander in the 1st Cav. He spoke to us at this group of 5 or 6, and he said, here are my top 3 things. And guess what his top 3 things were? And this was a month ago. And I'm sitting around the table. And I already had, this is in my little book that I go back to, and I've gone back to for 25 years. His is a little spin on it. Courage, okay, to do the right thing. Element of trustworthiness. Competence, the same. And guess what the third one was? Caring. Soldier care, family care. Those are the 3 things we've got to realize. And if you don't leave away with anything, leave away with those 3 things. Trustworthiness, competence, and caring. I want to tell you a little story, and I know I want to be brief in the stories because I've got 1,000 of them. But I look for an example back in my time as an officer. And some of you, I don't know if anybody in the room is familiar with JRTC. It's an incredible testing ground the Army has at the collective level for brigade level organizations. We had gone through this is 96, I was a brand new major in S3 of an artillery battalion. And I learned the lesson, and I think Tim, you were in there as well. I learned a lesson about what all this stuff meant then, hard way. So our commander, battalion commander in 05, real hard-crusted, old-timey guy, he stops in the afternoon. He comes to the leadership, the battery commanders in the S3 and the executive officer of the battalion, 3 captains and a major. He goes, "Are you ready for the convoy tomorrow?" And this is a convoy from Fort Polk back up to Little Rock, Arkansas. Yes, we are, sir. 3 bags full, because we were going to go have a good time that night. Well, we had a good time, all right. And about 10 o'clock that night, 2200, we get a phone call, about ready to go to bed. And he says, "I need all of you," and that's the 2 majors and the 3 captains, "to meet me in the motor pool." The vehicles weren't ready. So guess what the officer corps got to do the rest of that evening? We got to clean vehicles and fuel vehicles. and get vehicles ready for the convoy while the soldiers slept. That to me is the definition of courage. But he didn't have to do that. He could have just let it go and nobody would have said anything. But that's courage. And that was one of the finest commanders I had. So you've got to be able to make the tough decisions, whether at the platoon level or eventually battalion, brigade, and division level. And I want to just briefly touch on competence. Competence is a component of trust. So I encourage you and I charge each of you to read, to study, to learn to be the masters of your craft. Whether you're a chaplain, an armor officer, infantry officer, medical service, transportation, intel, engineer, it doesn't matter. Be the best that you can be. Competence, it creates trust. Competence creates trust, and that's why Stephen Covey included it. And then finally, caring. And in General Abrams, really, he rolled up, he spent a lot of time on it, and I'm glad, because it really reflected what I've always thought, is that caring is not just for the soldiers and those that will work for you, but it's the families. And it's not only the families, it is, I want to just ask, because I meant to ask early on, retirees or former members of the military, if you'll stand up. Not current members, but if you've been in the military, please stand up, if you will. Okay, give them a hand. So they're part of the team as well. So it's just continuum of service. Always a soldier in the Army. From the day you take that oath to the day you pass, you're always part of a very, very cherished core of individuals. So take care. So I challenge you to take care of your families. Take care of yourself, physically, mentally, all 5 dimensions, spiritually, especially. Take care of yourself, take care of your soldiers, take care of your families, and take care of those that have served before you. It's extremely critical. It is the fabric of our Army today. I'm reminded, just did a quote from George Washington. It says, the willingness with which our young people, and you today that have taken the oath, are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of the earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. So this continuum of service, this care continues on for our entire lives. The trustworthiness, competence, caring, all critical, all very timeless. They haven't changed, not since the inception of our Army. These are not easy to live by. You will undoubtedly endure many struggles, but do not fear. Engage, and this is one thing I firmly believe in, engage the difficult times. Because you, as lieutenants, are going to walk out of here, and probably right when you walk out this door, some of you are going to be faced with a very difficult decision, to go left or to go right, this way, that way, this decision or that decision. And you're going to draw upon something that inside of you that will help you make that decision, and it will rest in one of those 3 domains. It'll rest in just your trustworthiness, your leadership values that the Army has, your competence, or your caring as a leader for those around you. I want to transition into a close. I've collected, and I know a lot of senior leaders do this, but I've collected a lot of little quotes, when things aren't really going really great in my career, like the night that I got to wash all the vehicles at Fort Polk, Louisiana. I collect little quotes to help remind me. And one of them that I collected back about that time was attributed to Theodore Roosevelt. It's really the mantra to go towards what's difficult. To be in the places as an officer, lieutenant, where it's most difficult. Where your soldiers are going through those things that are incredibly hard, incredibly difficult, the most challenging. Don't be where it's easy, be where it's hard. Don't be where it's easy, be where there's a struggle. And put yourself in the struggle early on, because you will eventually have to deal with it one way or another. So get yourself used to dealing with the struggle. But he said, never in history has the easy life led to a great life. Not in one case has something great come without tribulations, without trials, without struggles, or without personal failure. Instead of fearing struggle that you will surely encounter, you should embrace it. Furthermore, run to it. You should embrace it with all of your being. It is in struggle that you experience growth. In conquering obstacles that you experience life. So with that, I'll close with thanking Lieutenant Colonel Quayle and the entire group of cadets and leadership here at the ROTC program at the University of Arkansas. I pray that each one of you will have a successful, long military career. I pray for you in your assignments, and undoubtedly you will deploy. I pray for your soldiers, and I pray for the success of each and every one of you and your families. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of our family here today and celebrate this great day with our new officers. As a token of our appreciation, we got some Razorback bling here for you. Next time you're in the Little Apple, if they're going to scuff you up anyway, you might as well have the cool stuff to go with it. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
I would now like to ask Commander Sam Sampson, the U.S. Navy retired from the Northwest Arkansas chapter of the Military Officers Association of America, to come forward and make a brief comment.
Thank you very much. I'm always asked two questions when I speak at a group like this. The first question is, what is a sailor doing in Northwest Arkansas? Well, my sextant didn't quite shoot the stars and the sun right. That's how I ended up here. In reality, I did end up here because of a three-letter word, Mom. Mom needed me, and I came. You always respond, Mom. That's why I'm here. Second question I'm always asked, and it's always the women. How do you keep that uniform so white? It's a good Navy wife. That's how I keep the uniform that sharp and clean. As I was introduced, the Northwest Arkansas chapter of the Military Officers Association of America. Our association started about 6 years ago, what's called a Gold Bar program. Now, you haven't seen the gold bars yet, but I'm sure you'll run across them. Second lieutenants will, as do ensigns, by the way, always polish that bar real well, that gold bar. Eventually, after about 2 years or so, miraculously, it turns into silver. I don't know how that happens, but it happened with me too. But we offer and we extend to each and every new second lieutenant a gold bar package. Nice little commemorative. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to go into that box the general referred to. About 20, 30 years downstream, you'll open up that box and say, golly, I remember that tall drink of water in White's down there on my commissioning day gave me this. A little certificate of authenticity of the gold bars, and also for 1 year, free membership in the Military Officers Association. The last thing that we give, and we've heard 12 affirmations today, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Well, our chapter said, let's go one step further. A small little booklet. Not only does it contain a copy of the Declaration of Independence, but it contains a copy of what you swore to today, the Constitution of the United States. I don't want to, again, pardon me, General, I don't want to step on the toes, but he said when you leave here today, you'll have to make a decision. Go right, go left. Whatever decision you make, it's your decision. But I have a request, simple request. Your certificates are up there on out that door, on that table. And they're arranged in alphabetical order. So this is your first assignment as a second lieutenant. Find your package on the table at the door on your left. Thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you. God bless the military of the United States, and God bless America.
Thank you, Commander Sampson and the MOA for your support of the Army ROTC program. We would like to thank our guest speaker, Brigadier General Clemmer, distinguished guests, friends of the program, and all of the families and friends who attended today's ceremony to share this wonderful and special occasion with these 12 newly commissioned lieutenants. Please stand and join us into the singing of the Army Song. The words can be found in your programs and on the screen. Once again, thank you for coming, and we would like to thank the School of Education and Health Professions staff for their support of this ceremony and the ROTC programs. This concludes today's ceremony. We congratulate the new lieutenants and ask you to join us momentarily for a reception in the drill hall of the Army ROTC building. Thank you.